Steven Spielberg came out on stage and he made us watch it without the music first, and everybody laughed because it looked so dumb.
Okay.
And then we watch it, then John conducted the score alongside it. It's just transformative. It's shocking. You just saw it and laughed at it.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely shocking.
On this episode of Garry Talks Film, I'm joined by one of Ireland's most celebrated composers and conductors, Eímear Noone, and her husband and longtime creative collaborator, Craig Stuart Garfinkle. Eímear has conducted the world's greatest orchestras, from the Royal Philharmonic to the Philadelphia Orchestra, and is best known for her groundbreaking work on some of the biggest video game and film scores of our time, including World of Warcraft and Zelda. Craig, an Emmy-nominated composer and producer, has an equally impressive career spanning Hollywood film, television and interactive media, with credits that include World of Warcraft, Bloodlines 2 and Disney's The Little Mermaid TV series. As composing partners, their recent films and games have won the Hollywood Music and Media Award. They have been nominated for the Ivor Novello Award, the Animation Ireland Award, and IFTA, and many, many others. Together, they've built a creative partnership that bridges continents, mediums, and genres, champion Irish talent on the global stage. We chat about their journeys, their collaborations, and how they continue to inspire the next generation of composers and storytellers.
The film scoring moment that we're in right now, there's almost a don't upset the apple cart, or don't draw too much attention, or don't. There seems to be this thing where the music has to be neutered in a way.
Great directors who really understand music know how to use it, to really work with it to serve the scene.
Garry Talks Film, kindly supported by Grace on Demand Skillnet and the Rap Commission.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Garry Talks Film, kindly brought to you by Grace on Demand Skillnet and the Rap Commission. I am delighted to be rejoined again by Eímear Noone, who featured on episode 100 of Garry Talks back in, I think it was October of last year. And her hubby, Craig,
Hi, Gary.
who has been collaborating and working with Eímear for a number of years as well. Thank you so much for joining me in Studio 2 this time for our new series. The last time, Eímear, that we had a conversation in this building was recorded the 30th of August, 2024. And it was funny because, Craig, you had dropped off Eímear and we promised that it would only be an hour-long conversation. And then you came back an hour later and we hadn't even started the conversation.
Yeah.
We were chatting so much, which is the same thing we've kind of done again this morning. We met up later on in Oranmore, and then we caught up with each other at the Magic Reindeer when that was shown in the Ice Cinema. And we kind of kept bumping into each other over the next few months and keeping in touch. And you were telling me then that you were heading off to Malibu. You kind of do half a year in Ireland and the other half of the year in California. And you went off to Malibu then in January. And I remember meeting you when you came back, how distraught you were by what you saw over there from the fires.
Yes.
And I'm just watching a documentary at the moment about it. Can you tell people like what it's been like?
Oh, it was,
because I think when you see the footage, it's mass destruction.
So I was awake because the car was packed. We were ready to go. And this was January 8th. All we had to do
We
was...
were still in Ireland.
We were still in Ireland and packed, ready to go. All we had to do was wake up in the morning, drive to Dublin Airport. And my phone, which still gets all the alerts from California, just started lighting up. And I'm looking at it. And then finally, get on the news. And I walk into the bedroom. I go, we're not going tomorrow. If we'd gotten on the plane, if we'd been there one day earlier, the area that we were supposed to be in was evacuated. You couldn't drive there because you would have had to drive straight through the fire. And so we would have landed with nowhere to go. And so, I call Aer Lingus and delayed, and we ended up delaying until finally 6 weeks later, we felt safe to finally go. It was devastating. And the thing about it was, if you were 2 or 3 blocks away from it on one side, it was like there was nothing there. But then you just go past this one line and it was a war zone all the way down to, to Santa Monica.
Oh.
And I mean, it's the distance 16 miles. And 16 miles from where we were from where the fire was to where it ended, and then another 10 miles or more inland, where everything was devastated. Starting off on a nice positive note, the positive note is that they're recovering. The positive note is that, resiliency and humanity and so on. We've been through, a few fires because we were in California for the Woolsey fire and so on. Mm-hmm. It's going to be okay. And our friends have recovered or are recovering.
Do you remember that we were glad when we did go eventually? Mind you, we stayed for Storm Owen as well.
Okay.
That was great. Yay. When we got there, we were glad that it was dark when we got in so the kids wouldn't see the devastation when we drove along the PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, because they're used to seeing this roadway their whole lives. Mm-hmm. Now, people would say nasty things about, those people, the houses are insured and they're very, very wealthy. If your child has grown up in that house and they have memories and that's home, or they grew up playing on that street, or those, you can't, that's unquantifiable. Those are people's homes.
Yeah, it's a place where you feel safe.
And their memorabilia and their sentimental things are there. Yeah. And everybody in Los Angeles has a little box in their head and a 20-minute thing where if you have 20 minutes to get out, what are you bringing with you? He has his guitar. I have some sentimental things, but generally they're not really, really valuable things. Yeah. They're sentimental. His guitar he bought with his bar mitzvah money when he was 13, that he still plays. Yeah.
78 Les Paul custom.
Yeah, it's irreplaceable, It's those things to keep the kids from having any sort of psychological reaction. Also to see the resiliency of people, and to see also in Malibu across from the shops, the main shopping center and things like that, the supermarket, the staging area for the National Guard where they had all the diggers and to see the National Guard out with their machine guns and things for looters.
Oh, right.
And for, as they call them, looky loos, people going around Instagramming, bikini shots in front of the burnt out house. Weirdest things,
It's California.
But there was checkpoints and all of that kinds of things. But when you see those guys, they're armed and so on, but they were absolutely incredibly good-natured, incredibly kind.
Yes, kind was the good one. Is that they understood that everybody who was there is actually going through something.
Hurting,
It was, it was a bittersweet experience. When we go back again, I'm curious to see. I'm hoping that it's recovered a bit more. And when we first got there, if the wind was blowing the wrong direction or the right direction, you could still smell it.
We saw
6 weeks later.
The animals as well, the marine life, to see, there was a condition that seals, for instance, you'd often see seals along the beach, were getting where you'd see them on the beach nodding their heads. So we're getting this neurological condition from fish they were eating that were contaminated by all the soot and debris and things. The runoff that when it would rain, that was going into the ocean. And neurological toxicity, some kind of toxic thing that was affecting their brain. It was so weird, the things you'd never think of. Yeah. And the first responders that couldn't touch electric cars. We've an electric car batteries that were so dangerous to handle for the first responders. They were dangerous to handle not because they burned, but because of whatever they had used to douse the flames,
Okay.
Really things you wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
But LA is an amazing city, and the United States in general, how resilient people are and how quickly they bounce back. It's absolutely phenomenal.
One of the things for better, it ended up being a good move for us, but one of the reasons why we relocated to Ireland was after the Woolsey fire. Eímear was on a plane coming back from a concert on the East Coast, and I woke up to an alarm on my phone. I'm cooking breakfast for Eliam, and we're going to go to school, and I get an alarm on my phone saying evacuate immediately. Like,
And thanks
huh?
to our dear friend Kirsten Sheridan for putting us up in her guest house.
Yeah. I mean,
You
literally
know,
chased out of our home by that fire.
And doing my washing. I was on tour. I was on tour and I was home for a day, and I was out to here pregnant with our son, Mael.
Yeah, you were going to be home for one day
Paris.
and then heading to Paris, right into the riots there. So
Right-
just don't follow.
right into the Gilets Jaunes riots. So I remember I was coming from the East Coast of the United States, and we had an indirect flight, and I stopped off in Colorado.
In Denver.
And when I got off the plane, you know the way they have in the US, they have like TV screens and the news playing. And I saw my neighborhood on fire when I got off the flight. I'm here with my big belly, get off the flight. I saw the 76 station, the petrol station across the road on fire on TV when I get off the plane. And I call Craig. I'm like, oh my God, where are you? He's like, it's okay, we're already evacuated. We're on our way to Kirsten's.
We're on our way to Kirsten's house. So I'll pick you up at the airport and we'll figure out what we're going to do.
I went straight to Kirsten's, and I come back from doing a whole bunch of concerts on the East Coast with a whole bunch of dirty laundry. And I have like a day, couldn't get back to my own home to get my other clothes, which was a different climate, to go to Europe to do the European leg of the tour. I arrived in London, had to shop to buy new clothes. Had a documentary filmmaker with me.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Then ended up in Paris. Derv MacDonald, my best mate, and Lisa Murray, the two girls arrived to meet me in Paris and see the show. And everything was on fire there as well. Oh, I remember we met a gendarme.
Is it safe to go on holidays with?
No, it's not. No. So I remember we were staying in a hotel on the Champs-Élysées, and in the background, you could see the Arc de Triomphe, and there was a car burning in front of it. And there was the riot police were out, and there was a huge, big gendarme. And I was like, okay, see this dude, that's how the French conquered a huge part of the world back in the day. It's not the artists that I'm used to working with Le Scarf and Le interesting spectacles. So Derval goes up and says hello to the gendarme, and she goes,
what's the gendarme now?
The big army guys.
Okay.
She goes, je suis Irlandaise. I'm Irish, and he goes, where are you from exactly? She goes, well, Ireland, du Nord. I'm from Ireland, right. The North. And he goes, well, bienvenue à Paris. And behind him, like there's a car burning on fire right behind him. You know, I just went, what is my life? Here I am with my big pregnant belly. I remember standing on a chair, putting eye drops, because I had, I'd really dry eyes as a symptom, putting eye drops into the wait staff of a cafe in Paris who'd just been tear gassed. I was standing on a chair, putting eye drops into all the waiters who were outside and gotten tear gassed during the Gilets Jaunes riots. And that was the end of the tour. Luckily, I did the final performance there and came back.
You flew back home on the last day she could legally get on a plane.
Yeah.
Okay, because of being pregnant.
Yeah, and those that think, I accidentally ended up on stage at the Oscars. No, the dues were paid on tour pregnant several times. Yeah, how do we get into this story?
I don't know. You were asking about fires and
Your fault, Garry.
So, I was on the Champs-Élysées 48 hours ago, actually.
Oh.
Thankfully, it was a lovely experience.
Oh, it usually is.
Yeah.
He was eating his macaron
la
durée.
I kept speaking Italian as well, being married to an Italian. It was quite embarrassing. I can't do multiple languages in my head. But actually, that's something I wanted to ask you as well. So every time I come back, now I know I was away on holidays, not on work, but every time I come back, it's not a case of the holiday blues, but I come back and it's like, I don't know, is this home? Like, because when I was in Paris, I just fell in love with the streets and the culture, and I love London, and I'm over in the States in a few weeks, and I love traveling, I love seeing different places. And every time I come back home, it's a bit of a kind of,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I wonder, like, where do you, because you travel a lot, like, where do you feel at home? And is it a really good feeling when you land?
That's because you're in this part of Galway, you're not in East Galway.
Okay.
That's your problem.
Yeah, I know I have the city traffic to face on the way back. Yeah.
No, I will say this. For me, I was actually talking to a gentleman about this last night. We were talking about that. I'm writing my next script that I'm writing. is a celebration of East Galway and the language and the ghost stories and the culture. For me, I'm a blow-in. I'm a bigger blow-in than the Noones, who've only been there for 5 or 6 generations.
No, one side of my family is from this particular part of East Galway forever and ever and ever. And the other part came from all the way from 20 minutes up the road in East Galway.
Oh, they're definitely blowing. So.
Yeah, they're definitely blowing.
Like,
well, we live across the road from a graveyard, and Eímear always jokes, well, be nice or you're going to move across the road. The whole thing is it feels, that is home, and that feels like home, and that is when.
So East Galway feels like home to the two of you, yeah?
Yeah, it definitely is.
Okay.
It definitely is. And it's the language, it's the stories, it's looking out the backyard and just seeing nothing but fields.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different than the LA lifestyle, or
which we love.
Which we love too.
Yeah.
Yeah. LA is my city.
Yeah.
LA is a city that's given me so much. And Los Angelinos are my people, as well as East Galway people are my people.
Mm.
If I can speak to it, I'm interrupting you as usual.
It's okay.
But
it's great having married couples on a show. Yeah.
It's like this. It's like this. The old joke is, is that, the husband, you should go back and try to get a speaking role.
The Jewish husband.
The Jewish husband, yeah. I got cast as the Jewish husband. No, you tell him you need a speaking role. Sorry, I'm blowing the joke. But.
Yeah. It's there's something for me, even being creative writing in East Galway, even the vegetation. I mean, I can go to Wicklow and it's so beautiful, and I'm like, yeah, but it's a bit too beautiful. It's a bit
too manicured,
too flowery and manicured. I need.
There aren't enough rocks in the field.
There isn't enough wildness.
Yes.
Where are all the thistles and rushes?
Yeah.
I love East Galway. I love people. I love the way the people speak. I love our unspoken values, that we know how things should be done.
It's good to know that our kids are getting that in addition to.
I love how we approach things like death and community, and how we just know what the respectable thing to do is. And respect is very important to us, and honor is very important. And it's a particular type of honor, which is definitely about how you treat the other person in terms of how you make them feel.
Yes.
The way you dress going to a wedding is about showing up for the other person, showing them that you took the time to respect their event. I'm teaching this to my kids, so I'm looking at it from the outside. Even we've been talking about, and I was talking to some of my neighbours who were digging another neighbour's grave recently, how they think it's such an honor to prepare the resting place of a friend and neighbor, and how the tradition and we're hoping to preserve like we're talking about film, preserve some of these traditions on film. One of my favorite being a member of the bereaved family shows up to the grave diggers with a bottle of whiskey, and the men digging the grave will take the bottle of whiskey and toast the person whose grave they're digging. They'll tell a few stories and talk about them while they're digging the grave. And it's such an honor. And depending on where that is, if it's in the new grave, it's one thing. If it's in a really, really old burial ground, they'll find other people down there. And that's part of it too. And they'll respect and honor those people. And it's such an important thing. It's not ew gross.
No.
It's noble. It's an honor. And you're preparing this place for a dear, dear person. And you'll be there someday yourself.
Yeah. Hopefully not too soon.
You hope that the lads will look after you too,
Yeah, I'll get my enemies to do it, because when my grandmother passed, she asked us to fill in her grave because that's what she wanted. It was bloody tough work. I was cursing her so much. And there's a digger over there. And it's like, the digger could just slot it all in. Yeah, no, it's true. There's a lot of, because I suppose with being multicultural and nearly borderless at this stage, we're losing certain customs as well. It's all kind of getting, just streamlined to a degree, that the uniqueness that is there in different communities and areas around Ireland is kind of.
But
that's a global thing, unfortunately.
That's beautiful though, and it's worth preserving. We know what it's like. I mean, what it's like to be in a big city and go to a funeral where it's all very efficient,
Yeah.
you know, but the way we grieve as well is very, very healthy. You know, some people can look at it as maudlin or dragged out or whatever. That's not what my experience has been. My experience has been, it's been very thorough, very, very cathartic. One of the most beautiful and brilliant things, the Irish wake, which we debated. I remember when my dad passed away as a family, and I thought it was weird, and you know, and I was wrong, and my mother was right.
Oh.
I know she'll love hearing that.
You send her the clip.
And I've been thinking about this a lot because of a piece I just had to write, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. It was the Irish wake, to have a real Irish wake where we stay up with the person all through the night and tell stories and sing songs, and the casket is open.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was going to be creepy and weird, and I wanted to remember my dad the way I remembered him. And mom said, no, there's going to be people that want to say goodbye, and it's part of the process. And she was right. And I watched the older people come in and take his hand and bless him and shake, you know, and grip his hand and the rosary beads and say a prayer from him and walk on. And I thought it was amazing. Something I thought it was weird ended up being very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
What really surprised me was the number of people when we were standing there as a family that came and told me stories of their experience with Dad.
Yeah.
People that I didn't know. And those are the treasures that I will have for all time. And my father worked in mental health care. And I'll never forget this guy around our age at the time. This guy was in his late 20s. And I could see him coming out of the corner of my eye. He was kind of shuffling and looking at his feet. And he said, if it wasn't for your father, I wouldn't be in it. And I said, sorry, what? If it wasn't for your father, I wouldn't be in it. And I wasn't sure what I did. I said, oh, thank you very much. And he walked on, and Mom leaned over and she told me that Dad, the odd time, because he knew that, especially in the countryside, we have an issue with young men and mental health, which is very, very sad and something we need to do better with in this country. Our beautiful and brilliant young men deserve more support than they're getting. Dad would get the odd call from concerned parents to go and have a chat, and he would, and we knew nothing about it because he'd never divulge anything like that. But this young fellow wanted to let us know that's what happened. And for me, this does impact what our creativity, that these things are beautiful, and that they're part of us, and they're worth preserving. And to hear all of these stories, and these are part of our culture, that we have this relationship with the veil between life and death and how we approach those things, that's uniquely Irish, and is very much alive in the small towns and small villages. I only know of Galway and East Galway and the Midlands and areas of Roscommon and so on. I think it's absolutely, that's what is one of the things that makes me love there, because I know what it's like to live in a big city that I love.
Yeah.
But that kind of attachment to that place and those people is different.
Yeah.
It's different.
Because they are so different, aren't they? Like in Malibu and East Galway.
And it's weird that this is one of the reasons why I love East Galway. It's a uniqueness. And I know that when my time comes, I know that my neighbours will be there for me and I'll be there for them. And we mightn't see much of each other on a passing, and I can head in and out to the airport and fly off to wherever and come back and be gone for 6 months and do what I do. And doesn't matter a damn when I'm down at Tim's. People say, oh, I see you're up to things. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't really care to talk about it much at home because that's out there. And when I'm home, I'm way more concerned about what's happening locally.
So is the more real you East Galway, whereas in California you might have to it's more business. You got to show you're busy. And
there's many real us's.
Yeah, I suppose.
One isn't more real than the other, and one isn't more false than the other. I love performing and I love the business, and that's definitely real me.
Mm.
And what the audience gets is real me because I'm too stupid to contrive anything. I can't remember. I can't remember the character, so it has to be the same person all the time. What do you think?
Do you know, looking at the two, you're like two lovebirds here in the studio. The way you look at each other, it's great.
Well, it's been...
My coffee's getting cold. You can talk now.
It's almost going on 20 years and still haven't killed me yet, so I guess I'm doing all right. I'm trying to figure out where we were on the scale of...
But you grew up in the North Shore of Chicago.
Yeah, I grew up in a different environment. I moved to LA. I was like 19.
Can I just say, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Footloose, those are his high schools.
No, not Footloose.
So Ferris Bueller, that's
Ferris
your high
Bueller,
school.
yeah.
That's his upbringing.
Breakfast Club.
Oh, yes.
That's his experience of growing
up. And was the library shot in that school, or was it on the studio?
It was identified as being my school, but that wasn't actually shot at the school.
Okay.
But in Ferris Bueller, there's, like the beach scene. That's the beach I went to,
Nice.
The other one is Risky Business.
Oh, yeah.
They actually identify Tom Cruise as being from Glencoe, where I'm from in Chicago.
Cool.
So that was our claim to fame. And so it's like,
And were you into movies already?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And film music. And by the time...
And I suppose wasn't John Belushi from Chicago?
Yes.
Like there was a huge surge coming from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about New Trier High School. I mean, I would have killed as a music student.
I went to a high school that had 5,000 plus students in it.
Wow.
The campus was huge. That meant that we had 3 big bands and 2 full orchestras. And so there was real opportunity there. So by the time I got to high school, I knew I was going to be a musician. I knew I was going to be writing music.
Department than we had in college.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in this program where, the freshmen were getting taught by the juniors and seniors. By the time I was a junior and senior, I was one of the teaching assistants. And so I had my own big band when I was 17 years old. And then we did a school musical every year. And I wrote the school musical, 2 years in a row. And it's like, well, okay. And this is something that you can tell anybody who really wants a career in music. If you want to be where we are now, well, walk backwards in the steps. Well, he's probably the guy who wrote the school musical. Mm. He's probably the guy that spent 5 days a week playing in big bands. This was a golden place. I played in orchestras as well. I played bass in the orchestra and guitar in the big band.
Educate me here. What's the difference between a big band and an orchestra?
Big band is jazz, okay. like Duke Ellington and
Glenn Miller.
Yeah, Glenn Miller. Yeah, exactly. All of that stuff. But it was. But we were also doing things like 20th century composition for big band, which had ties to. Like
you're doing all Alf Clausen's charts.
Doing Alf Clausen. You don't know Alf, but
did all the music for The Simpsons.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. When I first heard of Alf Clausen, the brilliant musician Alf Clausen, it wasn't because he was doing Moonlighting and he was doing Alf the Alien.
Yeah.
So it was because he wrote some of the most brilliant jazz charts.
That would have been before The Simpsons.
It would have been before, it would have been before all of that, before The Simpsons. He
used to let me sit in on all his sessions, which would take place on a Friday evening so that none of the producers would show up because they'd all out to dinner with their families.
Yeah, he purposely did that. Clever man, yeah. That was my upbringing. And then I went to Indiana University because it was, and in the United States, people don't know this, but that was probably the finest jazz program in the country was Indiana University. And it was one of the only ones at the time. And that was David Baker and Dominic Spira, who were the 2 teachers there. But David Baker called me aside after I was, he let me take all the advanced and the graduate school classes.
Meanwhile, I used to buy David Baker's books
at
McCullough Pickett's in Dublin when I was a student.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's McCullough Pickett's. Is it still there? I don't know.
Yeah. The short story there is David calls me in one day and said, I know you want to write music for film and TV. I've let you take all the advanced orchestration classes, the big band classes, all of these things. You're playing in the big. He said, it's time for you to leave. You got to get out of here. You got to go to LA. He's the one who said, go to the Musicians Institute in Hollywood because the greatest guitar players in the world are teaching there. And he's the one who also said, then, if you want to really get your degree, go to UCLA and finish. And so that's exactly what I did. Thank you, David. There are a whole host of other things that conspired to make me do that. Mm. But I'd only applied to one college, and that was Indiana, because I knew I wanted to go there. And then after going to Indiana for a few years and going to Musician Institute, I applied to UCLA. I don't think I could get in now. It's
That's
impossible.
rubbish. Yes, you could.
But, but then
God.
the other part of that, the great thing about UCLA at the time, there was a teacher there by the name of David Raksin. And David would have been from the golden age of Hollywood. Eímear's sitting there going, I wish I had this kind of experience growing up.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. So David Raksin, his first film was he got in his 20s. And he was working as the scribe, basically, for Charlie Chaplin on Modern Times.
Oh, wow.
Meaning,
smile though your heart is
well, no,
aching.
Charlie wrote that. Charlie would have written it, but
With David.
David would have been there because
You have to read David's son's
biography of them. Yeah, I know. I've read elements of it.
Did Charlie Chaplin co-write that song?
Yeah.
David Raksin and Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but so that's what that, there was all. So he worked with Charlie Chaplin
On Modern Times.
on Modern Times, one of the first sound films ever. By the time I was his student, he was already in his 80s. He lived to be 92, but he was writing golden age, the 40s, 50s, and into the 60s. He was writing that brilliant music. So he taught for over 50 years.
How many Oscar nominations did he get?
Two or three. I'm not remembering. Bad and the Beautiful, Laura, and a few other da 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 da. It was his. So I got really, really lucky in that I got that exposure and I got that teaching. But I was always one of those people who's just always going. It's like I went to study with David Baker and Dominic Spira because when I was in high school, Dominic Spira was doing 12-tone serialism for big band. I remember the pieces and I'm thinking I want to study with this guy. He's brilliant, and so that pushed me there. And then, but I always knew I was going to do film and David Baker.
I want to hear that. I've never
It's
heard
really cool.
12
The other one,
serialism for big band.
Jay Chataway.
Yeah.
He wrote this one piece called Checking the Cell Structure. I remember it to this day, where they were doing this contemporary composition for big band. I don't know. I got bit by it, but now we're writing nice animation scores and things like that. But go ahead.
So it's crazy what goes on in your world in the sense of, and I'm probably only getting a part of it, but you're composing music. So you're composing different genres for animations, for film, for documentaries, for games. You're conducting all over the world. You're writing and developing animation features and films, and there's loads that you're at all the time.
We don't know what we do.
Low boredom threshold.
Yeah, Eímear has a low boredom ththreshold. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Really, really low boredom threshold.
You like to stay busy.
Yeah.
Well, Eímear has an amazing year coming up. One of the things that because we work together on everything, even when she's on tour, I'm still at home. And she can sit in a hotel room and write a piece of music and send it to me, and then I'm producing it at home, and then we do the recording session, and she's in front of the orchestra, and I'm in the booth.
That's the most simplistic version of that I've ever heard.
But you've sent me on scores that you are working on for before video games release, whatever.
Yeah,
a sample, and it's amazing.
Well,
and this is just something, not something, but it's recorded in a studio in East Galway, and it's unreal. Like what I love about music and film is the emotions that comes from it.
Yeah.
The journey takes you on, and often you'd remember a movie from the score, maybe more so than the storyline or the scene is very much attached to the score and the emotion that comes through on that.
When the score is doing it the best.
True.
That's, if I can be critical of the moment, the film scoring moment that we're in right now, there's almost don't upset the apple cart, or don't draw too much attention, or don't, it's like there seems to be this thing where the music has to be neutered in a way that doesn't really project.
I think great directors who really understand music know how to use it.
Yes.
To really work with it to serve the scene in the best possible way.
This is why when Eímear was when you were doing that Sound of Cinema thing for the BBC last week, and you were choosing your pieces, all of the pieces that Eímear chose were ones that you could not separate the music from the image. I mean, you can,
Yeah.
but
they're both.
There was four movies you had to pick, was it?
So every now and again, I'll do something for BBC Radio 3, which I love. Their shout out, their fabulous team in there. We did a thing for The Sound of Cinema, and they asked me to pick 4 film scores and talk about not only the scoring, but where the composer was at their in their life at the time and their process, but also how it serves the film and so on. And I had to pick one of our films, but 3 others. The one of ours I picked was The Canterville Ghost for a multitude of reasons, but the other 3.
And that was edited in, was it West Galway?
Yes.
In
Spittle.
Oh, that was
Canterville.
post-produced in Spidale.
Yeah.
By Telegale, and then the scoring was all done in East Galway.
Yeah.
West Galway post-produced scoring was all written and mixed in East Galway.
Yeah.
Recorded in and also we just gave some of the score a live performance at the Royal Albert Hall 2 weeks ago as part of Fright Night with the Royal Phil Concert Orchestra.
Oh yeah, we have to get into that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. So the other 3 films I picked start off with The Matrix, Don Davis's score, because I really felt when I heard The Matrix first, I was a student, and it kind of blew my mind because it was an action score, and I felt I'd never heard an action score like it before.
I mean, if you can visualize the numbers coming down, it's like that's one of those you cannot separate.
And you have the low, and there was somebody who really obviously knew the orchestra really well. I'd never heard of Don Davis. I remember watching it in my mother and father's living room, waiting to see the credit at the end, because I'd missed it at the beginning. But you hear the you hear the low woodwinds, the low clarinet and bassoons, and you're you hear the brass with these sort of dissonant, emerging chords underneath this babbling, and it's perfect with the numbers coming down. But there's an energy to it as well. You can hear the energy of the musicians coming off the recording. That's something I always look for when I'm recording. I look for the energy of a live performance on the recorded performance. And that was there. And I could hear definitely this is somebody who really knows the orchestra well. Of course it does, because it's Don Davis. And Don Davis had been an orchestrator for Alan Silvestri, for Thomas Newman, for Randy Newman, for James Horner. He had been everybody's orchestrator up to that point. So he knew the orchestra really well, how to push them to the edge. You got to know where the edge is before you push everybody there. Also, if you're going to push to the edge, and I say this in The Sound of Cinema, you got to have the players got to trust you. And of course they did. They'd been working with him forever. So he really created something new. That was one.
If I can interrupt.
Yeah.
I had this one of the things Eímear and I bonded over, in that I had this exact same reaction when I saw The Matrix for the first time. It wasn't just Eímear saying, no, I had the same exact reaction. And, I had the pleasure shortly thereafter of meeting Don, becoming friends with Don. And then Eímear became friends with Don.
So here's the thing I don't say.
This is what I love about LA.
Right?
This is what I love about LA.
So here's the stuff that you get that BBC doesn't get, that when I met Don, he has the same sense of humor as me, which is like a bit of an edge to it.
He doesn't suffer fools.
No, not at all.
No.
We ended up only conversing through the medium of limericks. First of all, we had to find who had the best limerick. And then via email, we would only talk through the medium of limericks. So the whole conversation had to be through limericks back and forth, back and forth. This went on for months. But Don is exactly who I thought he was based on listening to the music. Yeah. Really, really bright.
Really, and also a student of David Raksin.
Oh, okay.
So also a student. Yeah. So then I went from Don's
and just before moving on from Don, you say, bringing the musicians to the edge.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So the edge of of technique, of the tessitura. Tessitura is the lows and the highs and the mediums of each instrument. Also speed, tempo,
So it's like a good workout.
Exactly.
But there's
exactly.
one of the rules of being a really good orchestrator in that regard is you have to know where the edge is.
Yeah, for each
Okay.
instrument.
For each
as
instrument.
well.
And you've got to
And
know
how
your
it
players.
fits together.
Yeah. Because if you write on the edge, they love you.
Yeah.
If you go over the edge, they hate you.
You hate
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And also, the edge is different in different places.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the
Different
edge,
cities.
Yeah.
different cities, different kinds of players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yes. So it's a whole thing. But Don, when I met him, was exactly who I thought he'd be from the music.
Yeah.
Extremely bright, great sense of humor, conscientious.
There's a community.
No
artifice,
falseness, no artifice.
No. But I'm saying there's a community in Los Angeles at the time. It was the Society of Composers and Lyricists. And
Still there.
It's still there. It's grown, but at the time it was about 500 composers. I was on the board of the directors of the organization. And so, I would sit at a board meeting and I would be not just at the time the youngest and to me the stupidest guy in the room. And I would just sit there and watch. That's how I met Alf. That's how I met Don. That's how I met Charles Bernstein. That's how I met
Governor, the music
all
branch.
of my heroes.
Yeah.
And we're all talking about the things that are affecting composers and businesses, and we're trying to unionize, and we're trying to do all of these different
John
things.
Williams would be a member.
Yeah.
Alexandre Desplat. Everybody.
Wow.
Everybody. You do have to be a pro to be a member and so on.
Yeah.
But it's a very wonderful organization.
You're both competitors, but you're not. It was.
Yeah.
So that's how
Who
that's
else understands your
your
madness?
Madness like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But the other
So the other films, you got two more films. to
Laura
talk about.
by David Raksin. So I have two of David Raksin's students, you and Canterville and Don, and actually I was taught by one of David Raksin's students, which is Christopher Young, but I'll get to Chris in a minute. Laura by David Raksin. So when David was writing Laura, which was he nominated for an Oscar for Laura?
If he wasn't, he should have won.
So-
I don't.
I think there's loads of nominations that movie
just
got.
a stunning score. But he was hired for it because he was known as the guy that did film noir. And the harmonic language, I called it in the BBC thing, a bridge from Debussy to jazz. It's taking that language, the harmonic language of Debussy towards jazz, and it's absolutely stunning. What happened the week that he was hired to do it was he got a Dear John letter from his wife asking for a divorce. And he sat down at the piano and watched the film and came up with the theme for Laura. And he took the film in a completely different direction than Preminger, the director, had seen for the film. And it's much more complex. And he created this theme where he wanted, in order to make everything stick, the main character in the opening of the film, had to fall in love with Laura. And you're watching him walk through her room and you see her painting.
You have to clarify at the beginning of the film, Laura is dead.
Yeah. He had to
so
fall in love with her.
he's investigating her murder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he has to go beyond just being a detective investigating a murder. He has to fall in love with her, and the audience has to. And David knew that. And Preminger had Sophisticated Lady, which is just not that. It's too light. It's just not what David did. Now, in credit to Preminger, he went with it. But what a story. And the score is just stunning. He scores the inner thoughts. And you told me, this is you told me that when you showed me the film first, and really does. It scores what he's thinking.
Are you introducing her to the movie?
Yeah.
And David told you that.
Yeah. Well,
in class.
we saw it in class, and we saw his personal print. I had never seen a black and white film in a theater, especially one where the print was perfect, and and it was gorgeous, and it sounded gorgeous, and I thought, oh wow, now I get it. And so David, before we went in, he talked us through all the different scenes, and we studied that score. What Eímear's saying are the things that David actually told me in that class.
Yeah.
Not just me, there were other people there, but
you're the only one listening.
but David was like a student of Arnold Schoenberg who left Nazi Germany and moved to Los Angeles. We both taught for UCLA Extension. I taught on campus at UCLA.
He was friends with Aaron Copland. He was friends with Igor Stravinsky.
The Schoenberg building is in UCLA because he taught there.
Okay.
So he studied with Schoenberg. and he was friends with Stravinsky. And I told the story that you told me, that David told you, of him bringing his little daughter, his newborn daughter, to Stravinsky, who fell in love with her and kissed her feet. And these are the big legends. He's friends with Copeland. But you can hear that time, you can hear that complexity in the writing. It's so different to what we have today, but you can hear it in you, you can hear it in Don, you can hear it in Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So the other movie I chose was E.T., the flying bike scene.
Yes. And that's what I was thinking that's what I was visualizing when I was saying to you, that sometimes when you think of a scene in a movie, maybe the music is just attached and amplifying that scene.
You should watch that scene without the music. I went to see a concert at the Disney Hall where John was conducting this, and Steven Spielberg came out on stage. And actually, Steven said this about Indiana Jones, where he said, the special effects were cheap and crap, and they looked silly. And we have this snake jump down out of the train carriage in the movie, and it looks so stupid. And he goes, somehow John made it look real. He goes, I don't know how he did it, but he made it look real. And he made us watch it without the music first, and everybody laughed because it looked so dumb.
Okay.
And then we watch it. Then John conducted the score alongside it, and it's just transformative. It's shocking. You just saw it and laughed at it.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely shocking. Even as a composer, I know we do these things, but to see it like that and a score that and I know the story of E.T., and I've watched John conduct it where it's really, really hard. And I've conducted this scene.
Okay.
I've conducted it live as well. So I know it's hard to put together with picture because the moment is so huge and it has to work. That scene, what happens is this. One of the things that kids can't watch on screen is other kids about to get into trouble. This with your own kids, and they're like, oh no, I can't watch. And it's not, the big scary monster coming. It's the worst thing is seeing other kids about to get in trouble. They know it's coming. They're like, oh my God, I can't stand it. And you see the kids on the bike and they're being chased. And all of a sudden, they're crowded. The police cars are in behind them, and they're surrounded. There's no way through, and the cars come around the front. They're about to get in big trouble. And Elliot has E.T. in the front basket of the bike, and his buddies around him. And he does what every child would do in that situation, about to get in big trouble. What does he do? Closes his eyes, wishes it away. They can't see me. If I can't see them, they can't see me. Closes his eyes, he shouts to E.T. And what John is doing in this moment is ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba ba. What he's doing is bringing back a theme that we've heard in a friendly mode earlier on, right? But now it's getting more and more insistent, and it's reaching, the tessitura is reaching. So the trumpet is getting like more strained. This is happening, and you're getting stressed out. And underneath what he's doing is he's putting like these ominous pedal tones where you're like, that the sand is shifting beneath your feet. What was the themes that were friendly? He brings back like about 3 different themes that we've heard throughout the score in really friendly kind of situations, but he'll undermine the harmony with something dark, and you're like, uh-oh, and then just as you get a tremolo from you get a dissonant chord, tremolo on the timpani, it's getting louder and louder. Elliot closes his eyes, sustain, and da 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 da. They're off, and it's just like glorious. Everybody remembers the first time they saw that movie, and it's that moment, right? And John being John, you think you have the big moment, that's it, but no, of course there's a key change. And the theme comes back even bigger. And it is just, you get the big wide shot, and it's just spectacular. You see all the bikes, and then there's a shot of them going across the moon, and it's just fabulous. And I can't wait. Our studio, of course, we have the big screen, the dub stage, and it's about work. It's not about playing video games on a big screen with Dolby Atmos or
Of course
watching
not.
movies
Yeah.
with my brother and the kids. And so, no, it's not about that. I can't wait to put E.T. up there and have Mael see it, who's
Never
about
seen
to
it
turn
yet.
7
Okay.
Yeah.
for the first time and see that. And I swear we're not going to crank the score as soon as that moment comes.
There was a DVD that came out to mark one of the anniversaries of E.T., and one of the audio tracks on it was the live scoring of it by John Williams,
Yeah.
which was really, really cool because you can hear it much more than you do in the film itself.
The legend is that they were having trouble putting it together. It is really hard to get the timing right. Now we use click tracks and so on, but that score needs to breathe and that theme needs to breathe. And it's really hard. And I really understand, I'm not going to get into the technicalities of it, why it was hard to put together in the studio without click track. And with John uses the old school clock, which is so hard to do. Steven Spielberg said, look, this is just so magical. I'll recut picture to make it work. Absolutely brilliant creative choice because he was going to come out the best end of that rather than getting John to squash something that was absolutely transcendent into really getting those hit points.
Back in those days, the way that we would synchronize was, there weren't computers doing it. It was streamers and punches, and the clicks were frame clicks where literally they would scrape the emulsion on a piece of mag film.
I don't know that John was even using streamers and punches.
I don't think he would have been
used the clock.
He would have been using the clock. I think he still would have. I don't know. Streamers and punches were literally wax pencils across film in a way that when you draw
So they're looking
for
the mark on the
they're
screen.
looking at literally a wax pencil drawing that goes across to keep you synchronized.
He has the old German technique. So
Yeah.
when he gives the downbeat, it comes after as well.
Mhm.
So that there's a combination of
different things.
which is beautiful and gives it that breath.
Yeah.
At B-R-E-A-D-T-H, but it's tough to get the.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have on this week's episode of Garry Talks Film. But please do join us again next week for part 2, where Eímear will be talking to me about that one famous movie she feels should have been scored completely differently. Craig will give us an exclusive on a new feature film project he is working on with Kirsten Sheridan. And Eímear will be talking to us about the most frightening song she ever composed for a big event in London a few weeks ago. All that and more on next week's episode of Garry Talks Film. Thanks for listening. Garry Talks Film, kindly supported by Grace on Demand, Skillnet and the Rap Commission.